support his candidacy with donations and whatever else we can do regardless, because we definitely want to take back the House.
We do.
So, welcome, Senator Min.
Hello, Laguna Woods. Hey, Janice. Good to see everybody. It's been a while. This is my favorite Democratic club.
How will you use your voice to improve lives in today's congressional environment? How can you help amid party divisions, inadequate budgets, and a constant need to compete in campaigns?
That's a very broad question, but I want to be realistic. So in the state Senate, Josh Newman and I get to do a lot of great things because there's only 40 of us. We have a super majority of Democrats, and so I've passed 28 bills in my first 3 years. We may pass another 10 this year. That's something that is amazing, right? And we brought back over $150 million to the district, including money for a fire station here in Laguna Woods. So very exciting, thank you, to be able to serve these types of roles in the state legislature. I have no illusions that in Congress, being one of 435, I'm going to be one of the lowest people on the totem pole, and I don't want to overstate what I'm going to be able to do. But the most important thing I'm going to be able to do, and the reason I'm doing this, is to get Hakeem Jeffries elected Speaker of the House. And then within the caucus, I hope to exercise my voice to try to lean in favor of good, thoughtful policy. Having served a few years in the state legislature, I can see some of the incentives that politicians face. And I think the unfortunate reality is that there's a big incentive to create big, new, bold things, which are sometimes important, but there's not enough incentive to fix up the problems that we have, to follow through, to think about how existing programs are working. We need to do a better job of making government work, and I want to lean in hard with my experience and credentials to try to make sure that we're actually thinking through the policy details, because the details will matter. We have to win this election, but after we win the election, hopefully, then we have to actually govern well.
Yeah.
We could do it in 2 minutes. School shootings have been a national problem for too long a time. How would you help break the logjam in Congress and pass sensible gun controls to help ensure the safety of our children and citizens?
Thank you, Joel, for the question. And as I think a lot of you know, gun violence prevention has been a top priority of mine since being elected to the state Senate. And I remember visiting this area when we had the Taiwanese church shooting just a few years ago. We've had major shootings at least once a year in my district. It has just been tragic to have to continue to adjourn the Senate in memoriam of the victims of these shootings. This is a crisis. It's a crisis that is affecting everyone. There is no safe corridor from gun violence in America today. And the problem is fairly simple. We allow unfettered access to weapons of war, to concealed weapons, to open carry weapons, to assault rifles. So we have to do something about that. I've been able to pass some meaningful legislation here in California. It will be much harder in Congress. And so working across the aisle, trying to convince people that this should not be a partisan issue, trying to find the ways that we can move things forward will be important. And so I know that the Brady campaign is working hard on gun safety storage, gun storage as a mechanism that we can all work on together. I also think we have to take back the courts, and I'm out of time, but I think we really fundamentally have to reshape the federal judiciary because they are out of control. They're writing law from the bench in ways that are completely out of touch with both precedent and with the plain textual reading of the Constitution, of any laws, of any precedents. So we have to take our courts back.
Climate change.
We are in a crisis right now, and I know you all care deeply about this because we are potentially leaving behind an unlivable world for many of our kids and grandkids. We have so much work to do. It starts with decarbonizing our economy as quickly as possible, and to do that without reducing people's quality of lives, without making people much worse off, we have to innovate. And so the IRA and BIF were great first steps. We need to build on that progress. We need to try to invest heavily in clean energy infrastructure immediately in this country. By the way, that's going to create a lot of jobs, a lot of innovation, a lot of growth. And I always say, why not Orange County? Why can't we be the green Silicon Valley here in Orange County? Because we have all of the requisites for a bright future, a technology future. But this is a serious issue. We need policy, smart policy, bold policy in climate, to decarbonize. We also have to address a lot of the changes that we know are already coming. And so whether that's thinking through some of the density of housing, whether it's managed retreat from our coastlines, from wildfire-prone areas, whether it's making sure we preserve and expand our open spaces. That's something I've been very passionate about because we need to preserve our biodiversity and prevent the extinction crisis, or mitigate the extinction crisis that we know is coming right now.
Every 10 years we go through the redistricting cycle, and because the Senate runs 4-year terms, we turn over our lines in 2 separate elections, in 2 phases. And so Senate District 37 in the last phase, it's an odd number district. It gets transformed this year. My house, I live in Fullerton. Fullerton is now the northernmost city in the Senate District 37. And very quickly, it goes out to all unincorporated Orange County, including Laguna Woods. But it goes from Fullerton, Placentia, East Anaheim, Orange, Villa Park, North Tustin, Tustin, Lake Forest, Aliso Viejo, Laguna Niguel, and then all of the cities in Irvine and Costa Mesa. So that's the new district. And I'm glad to come and introduce myself. And there's sort of an interesting statistic. The number of people who can identify their state legislator without prompting, I've sort of given it away a little bit. What would you guess the percentage of people can identify their state legislator?
45.
Somebody said 10. It's 11%, right? So it does not speak well of our current state of civic education. But that's what it is. So I'm running in a new district. But I had the distinction, I guess I had 2. One is I was the first Democrat in 2016 elected to represent Senate District 29 in over 4 years. And so thank you. And that was the beginning of a really encouraging trend. That was 2016. In 2018, we got a whole bunch of terrific members of Congress elected. We got a number of new members of the Orange County delegation. 2020, we lost a few members of Congress, but the Orange County state delegation got bigger. And so there is a stereotype of Orange County that still, sort of harks back to an earlier era that, Orange County is still a red district, it's still conservative. And that's actually not quite true. Orange County is now a minority majority district. And I will say of our state legislative delegation, we kick ass. There's 7 Democrats out of the delegation that are doing, I think, a really terrific job representing this area very well. So again, got elected in 2016. My background prior to that, I'm a graduate of Yale University. I'm a former Army officer. I've worked in a number of fields, including technology, prior to running for election 2016. And the impetus of my running in 2016 was I got very interested and then involved in the Orange County veterans community, trying to solve what seemed to me a fairly straightforward question, which is why young vets coming home to Orange County and greater LA from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were having so much trouble finding gainful employment after their service. And it seemed to me there was this real sort of striking gap between the rhetoric, thank you for your service, and the actual practice of how we get these young people onto the next chapter of their lives in a productive way that recognizes what they've given to us during the last decade and a half. And so I got very involved with the Orange County Veterans Advocacy community. I wound up meeting a lot of elected officials. And honestly, I got very frustrated at being shy. I don't know how else to put it. I'd say, there's got to be a better way to do this. The state has a role to play in this. And consistently they'd say, call my office, you're awesome. And so I had meetings that were very unproductive with young Kim and a bunch of other people. She was in the assembly at the time. And it led to nothing. And then when it came time for, the election was shaping up in 2016, I thought I have something to offer. And I've actually known Sue Deering for all that time. At the time, I was the vice president of the Democrats in North Orange County. It's so nice to see us each other at the weekly meetings at the Council of Clubs. And so I thought I had something to offer. So I ran, and I was the kind of unknown Democrat in a three-person field, and wound up winning a very, very close election in 2016. And then I wound up being recalled in 2018 as I was kind of the unfortunate man in the wrong place, wrong time when we raised California's gas tax. And then in 2020, I'm either a terrific public servant or really stubborn or both, but ran again in 2020 and wound up winning by a fairly convincing margin. And so I have had the privilege of serving as a state senator now off and on for 8 years. And I like to point out to folks, so we have to get Dave Min elected for lots of reasons, including that truly is the future of America's democracy. And Dave's election is the key to turning the House blue. And so thank you all for supporting the Democrats. But before you get to questions, I want to point out what we do in Sacramento is often just as important, in fact, sometimes more impactful on the lives of Californians. And so for my part, I've been proud to be a diligent, accessible, pragmatic participant in those conversations. I'm the chair of the State Senate Committee on Education. I'll do 3 bills very quickly that I've gotten passed that are on the governor's desk this year. One is a bill, SB 707, to reform California's textile recycling system to make sure the textiles don't go into landfill, we create a system that creates incentives to recycle them. 2, reform the Orange County Board of Education to move some of those right-wing moderate folks off that board and get a more representative board elected. And lastly, and I'm very proud, in 2026, you'll get to vote on a constitutional referendum that will change the recall process and eliminate the second question so we don't see recalls like mine or the one that was aimed at Governor Newsom 2 years ago. And so I've got 1 minute left. And let me say, my priorities as the chair of education are to make sure that every California kid gets the best possible education from K through 16. But just as importantly, that we work very hard to align the work day with the school day so that working parents know that their kids have a safe, nourishing place to be from 8 to 6 that will free up working parents, often single earner families, double earner families that are working so hard to make in California. And we need to make sure that they can go to work and find pathways to prosperity, but that their kids can do the same in school. So thank you all, Laguna Woods Democrats, not just for me, for supporting Dave, but also everybody at the bottom of the ticket. It's so important what you do, and I'm grateful for that. I know I'm going to get some questions from Joel. So thank you.
Okay, Josh, we have 3 questions for you, also 2-minute answers, and these are the same questions that Don will get in a bit. Our state legislature proposes over 1,000 bills each session. Then our governor vetoes about 14%. Do we need so many bills, and why?
I can answer this in less than 2 minutes. No. And so we don't, and there's sort of an interesting situation. There's 40 state senators, there's 40 assembly people. In the state senate, we have a limit of 40 every 2 years, which is 20 on average each year. In the assembly, for some reason, where they have twice as many, they have a limit that's higher. It's 25 each year. And so the net of that, to Joel's question, is just a tidal wave of legislation. But if you consider, kind of the political incentives around that and related to our own lives, if we all went out to dinner and we agreed in advance that everybody's going to split the check evenly, and I don't care if you get a salad, you're going to pay an even share, I'm getting lobster. And that's exactly what happens in the state legislature. So the political incentives are such that every legislator has incentive to introduce as much legislation as possible. It's not all meaningful. And I actually have an op-ed that hopefully will run at the beginning of the next session, which actually makes the case. We should do fewer bills, we should have smaller committees, and we should free up legislators to work harder but get more deeply involved in issues, but also through a reduction in the number of bills, create incentives to actually be more rigorous about what really needs doing in California. And I would happily subscribe to that.
What makes you different as a candidate to lead California, and what are your top 2 priorities?
So as I mentioned, I have the strange distinction of being the only legislator in California state history, the only legislator in history to be recalled and to regain my seat. And that either means that I am a terrific public servant or the other ones really deserve to be recalled. But I will say, and in all kind of seriousness, it was a good experience for me, believe it or not. And so I don't regret the vote. I believed in 2017 that was a necessary step to create a revenue stream to invest in California's deteriorating infrastructure. But I have, the 2 other sort of good facets of that was, gave me pause to think about how I thought about public service, and I really do believe deeply in public service, and I do believe that if the good people opt out, and there's lots of reasons when you look at politics these days for smart, otherwise successful people to remove themselves from politics, we need good people. I'd like to think I'm one of those people. The other thing is the sort of insight that you are more than your title, and I think for me, the lesson was there are worse things than losing an election, and it's worth doing the right thing, even if that's possible. So I bring that to my work every day. I think every legislator should, and I'm better for it.
finally, affordable housing is a big issue in both California and the nation. Is there anything the state legislature can do to help solve this problem?
And I realize I failed the last question. I didn't name my top 2 priorities. So education, proud to be the chair of the Senate Committee on Education, and climate response. So Dave and I and others have worked very hard to make sure that California has a smart and sensible approach to climate response. And so the question was affordable housing. Housing is also a huge challenge in California. Median home price in Orange County is well above $1 million, which is well out of reach for virtually all Californians at this point if you don't already own a home. But it's truly out of reach for young people, and especially young people coming out of school, often saddled with high levels of debt, but also kind of working their way through a very challenging economy. So we have to make some really meaningful changes. First, around the sort of regulatory environment on housing, make sure that it is easier and therefore less expensive to develop affordable housing, which is to say all levels of housing. And then at the local level, we have to ensure that there are both regulations and legislation in place that make sure that every community has to meet their obligation to create new housing. But I also think we need to create incentives to unlock the creativity around that. There's actually 482 cities in California. The large ones are mostly built out. The opportunity for building housing is in medium-sized cities like the ones you have in Orange County, and we need to create incentives and a framework so that city councils in those areas figure out smart, creative ways to develop land that retains the character of those communities, but also allows for the next generation to buy. It's a really sad fact that most parents look at their kids and think it's very unlikely my kids will be able to live anywhere near me in Orange County. We need to solve that, and the only way to do that is with meaningful change around housing policy. Is that it? I'm done. I'm done. So thank you again, and thank you for supporting all of my Democratic colleagues. But I will say this: don't vote for somebody just because they're a Democrat. Vote for people who will represent this area, who will go into whichever sphere of government that they are running for, and do the hard work of being thoughtful, diligent, accessible, and democratic with a small d. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Josh, all right? You are one of the good guys. You are thoughtful, diligent, etc. My memory doesn't work that well. Remember the other 2 things you said? The reason, we need to just say one word about redistricting. Please don't think that you can get gerrymandered in California. The redistricting process is very transparent. Everybody can have input on it. It was redone in 2008, how it gets done, and there is a committee of people from every party, and you can run you can apply to be on that committee, and it is done as fairly as possible, and everybody has input. When we found out that Laguna Woods was going to be divided up for the congressional district, somebody actually contacted us and told us that was going to happen. And so we tried to write and say, please don't do that. Keep us all in the same congressional district. It didn't work, but there were other factors at play. But it is not unfair. Okay, it's as fair as it can be. Okay. Anyway, and we thank Josh. And if you want to make a contribution to Josh, it's newmanforsenate.com, and we will send out those links in the next couple days. But everything is so easy, you can just Google it, right? The next candidate that we have is someone who you can all vote for again, and that is Dom Jones. And Dom is running for a California Assembly in our district, the 72nd, and she will tell you all about herself. Okay, welcome, Dom.
All right, are we in here, Democrats? Yes, yes? All right, I am so glad to be with you. Many of you know who I am. I am Dom Jones, your representative, will be your future Assemblywoman for 72, and I am running, quite frankly, rather clearly, to help move Orange County forward, Today is the day for that progress. We have long deserved it, and as Josh Newman said, Orange County has been known to be a place that's only Republican, but we get to show that it is very different and it is shifting. If you don't know anything about me, let me give you a few tidbits. First and foremost, I am the United Nations Government Affairs Ambassador for all of Orange County. So I take very seriously working in harmony in diplomatic relations across the coastline with our cities to make sure that we are advancing and we are moving forward in harmony with things that move us forward as a society. I'm a business owner of a brick and mortar. I have been for many years in Huntington Beach, and it's been an absolutely honor of mine to be there and to see the community thrive. And what I have seen is this. Many of my customers, many of the people I've worked with are Republican, and yet they actually want to see someone who looks at them not just as their vote, not just defining them by those choices, but as people. The mandate is clear from the top, and my campaign has the honor of being consulting and working with the Kamala Harris campaign. By the way, let's give it up for the fact we have Kamala at the top of the ticket. Let's do that, yes, absolutely. And the mandate is clear. Unity is what we need. We are done with the division. We are done with the strife. I was a missionary for over 13 years and a minister for very long. And one of the things that I focused on was harmony, was coming together. The Democratic Party is the umbrella party. We welcome everyone. I certainly champion the LGBTQ community. I champion diversity. Yes, baby, we're about that life. And I also champion recognizing that I was raised as a conservative. So I understand conservative values and principles. And the Democratic Party gets to be a tent for those who are of faith. As Kamala Harris has said, we do not have to abandon our faith in order to know this, that no government has the right to interfere with a woman's right to bodily autonomy, that no government has the right to interfere and get in the way of who a person can love. These are things and values that we champion as Democrats. And here is the reality. My campaign has done recent polling I want to share with you. With independents, which are a very important part of this election, we must win them. I am 4.5 points ahead of my opponent. And there's a reason for that. Because when people see that someone stands for unity and for reason and for prosperity, and it is not about judging people by their rainbow hair, okay? Because indeed, I do have rainbow hair. That's my favorite color, rainbow, okay? And yes, I've been in the entertainment industry, so I am someone that likes to bring joy and light and expression to everyone's hearts and souls. But I am representative of Gen Z. I am representative of the millennials, even the alphas coming up being born today. Because this is the new vanguard of the new politician moving forward to help us realize that tomorrow's future looks not like what we thought the world had looked like. And Donald Trump, what he does is he exploits fear. He exploits fear in the hearts of the people, and he gets people driven by that, and fear will get things done. It will. But you know what else will get things done? Love. Love wins. And that is the mandate from the top of the ticket. And when you vote for Kamala Harris, and then you vote for Senator Dave Min, and then you vote for Josh Newman, and then you vote for Dom Jones. And that is what we want you to do and to remember. And Joker! We want you to remember to really strive to go down that ballot and ensure that your vote is certainly being counted all the way down. I want to say thank you for having me. I am a nonprofit business owner as well, of a nonprofit called Democracy, where we help young leaders and young women reach leadership, which is very important. I also am someone who cares very, very deeply about our community. I run the You Matter Global Movement, a national program of social emotional learning, where we help students post-COVID-19 to overcome those social emotional challenges so that they can learn. I also am an educator and a teacher, a special needs teacher. I do too much, but I tell you the honest truth. I do it all because I love people, and I love you. And I'm not afraid to say that, you see. See, I was told that politics, Dom, is where love goes to die. but let me explain something to you. Do you know how you hear the phrase, oh, politics is the swamp, the government's the swamp? Do you know what I've said? Well, if we don't have those who are the light seekers and the light raisers and the lovers and the healers, if we don't have those in government, it will remain that swamp that we think it is. So those of us like myself, I did not expect to be in politics. I am a spiritual practitioner. I am someone who was in the fitness space, and I was called into it. And I certainly do not answer the call. I go forward. I do the work I am called to do, and that's why I am before you today, in the midst of what everyone thought I shouldn't do. Oh, Dom, you shouldn't run for Congress. Well, guess what? Me running for Congress initially, actually, caused me to pivot to this state assembly race where we had no one who was going to run against a representation who was far right, who does not stand for our values, who votes against women's bodies and lies, and said that we want to rip babies out at 9 months like we heard Donald Trump say at the debate. And I said no. And in order to win, which we will, you need a galvanizing figure, someone who can speak to both sides of the aisle and says, we are one humanity, we are one heart, that is what matters, and we shall move forward with might, with strength, and with love. Thank you.
Okay, we have the same 3 questions that Josh had for Don. 2-minute answers, please. Our state legislature proposes over 1,000 bills each session. Then our governor vetoes about 14%. Do we need so many bills, and why?
Well, I'll just agree with Josh. But it's true. We absolutely no. Listen, while I am a proponent of having many bills that go forward to help us move forward as a community and as a county, when we do that, we really focus on more of having an overabundant amount than quality and focus and having substance to our bills. I firmly believe that when we present a bill, it needs to have substance. I'll give you an example. Diane Dixon presented a bill, AB 1375, that actually says, okay, well, let's have some kind of mobile service that gives pharmaceuticals in case of emergency to seniors. Sounds decent, right? But do you know what? It stops after 24 hours. So if there's an emergency and we need our pharmaceuticals for our seniors, and I care very deeply about my seniors because my grandmother, who is my angel now, she always taught me, Dom, you love wisdom. You love wisdom, and gray-headedness, when it is found in the way of beauty, is absolutely wisdom. So I believe we get to nurture and take care of one another, and I get to take care of you. I get to honor the fact that you are trusting me to go there to the state legislature and stand for you. So when we talk about bills in an excessive amount, they need to have substance. They need to have meat on their bones. They can't just be thrown there just because someone is there in office. So for example, I would take that a step further and say, not only should we have mobile for our seniors to deliver the pharmaceuticals, but we should extend that, not just for 24 hours. How about 30 days until things get back up and running? How about we have meat on the bones of our bills? So, no, we should not have an excessive amount of bills. They should be healthy. They should have substance. They should have something that we can look to and say, okay, this is viable, and we shouldn't be throwing bills out on the floor just because.
What makes you different as a candidate to lead California, and what are your top 2 priorities?
What makes me different, you guys? What makes me different? Well, first, I do want to say that I will be the first woman of color to ever represent Orange County at the state legislature. Male or female, so we got it that way. And I'm very, very proud to do so. I am definitely someone who is a strong proponent of equality and equity and justice among all. We need that more in our leaders in Orange County. And no one will, quite frankly, look like me. I understand that. But also, no one will be a more vociferous champion than I will for understanding that we have to stop the rancor and the hatred and focus on building more unity and building more togetherness and creating a society in Orange County that does not say we are only here to serve a certain demographic. I want to say something to you. I was raised by my spiritual parents, and they were of European descent. And I know what it's like to experience racism and to experience prejudice. But do you know what they taught me? My heart will beat inside your chest just like yours will in mine. We are no different. We are no different. in the idea that we are is primitive. You see. So what makes me different is that when I go there, we will bring healing. We will bring kindness. We will bring an integrity that says, I am proud that I put her right in that seat.
Last question. Affordable housing is a big issue in both California and the nation. Is there anything that the state legislature can do to help solve this problem?
We can do a lot, I say. First off, we can streamline zoning laws to allow for more affordable housing to take place. We can welcome developers into our communities, which I think is very important. However, we need to put rent caps so that people can actually still afford to live in our communities. What we're seeing right now is a lot of young people are being priced out of Orange County. They can't live here anymore. Their parents have raised them here, and yet they can't now raise their families here. So we need actually more developers to come in and to do good work with that multi-use development of having the shopping at the bottom. You've seen those, right? You've seen those facilities and having the living quarters at the top. Also, we need to have more transit that is better developed in our communities. I do believe that Orange County, to be a county that has been here and been growing for many decades now, I believe our transit system needs to develop in urban areas. And by doing so, you make it easier for people to access work. You make it easier for people to access their living lifestyle and circumstances to get around, and then you can continue to develop the community in affordable housing. In Huntington Beach, for example, our current city council, which is very rogue, refuses to listen to the Attorney General and put in the 13,000 affordable housing units that we have been mandated to do so. You know why they don't want to do that? Because they don't want to see, yet again, the growth and the development and the diversity and the bustling nature of the city to come about. It's no longer a small town anymore. It is a bustling city, the 4th largest in all of Orange County. So if we work together to make sure that we work with the city councils and we ensure, and by the way, my role as the state assemblywoman is to bring back the state allocated funds to this district. And our current representation has brought back only $2.8 million to an entire district of over 200,000 voters. Okay? Cotty Peacher Norris, who did Costa Mesa alone, brought back $60 million. We need someone to sit in the state legislature's majority of Democrats and be a balanced and reasonable D who will go there, who will work across the aisle and ensure that all our needs are met in a loving and caring way that services Gen Z, Gen X, baby boomers, and millennials. Thank you. Am I done? Am I done? Okay, thank you guys so much for your time. I just want to say I appreciate you. I've been here many times. Sue Deering, I appreciate you and honor you. All of you, I love you so much. Vote Dom Jones. Vote everyone, and just let's win this, okay? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dom. And remember, you can make a donation to Dom's campaign at domjones.org. domjones.org. Okay. And now it is my honor to introduce to you our last candidate for the day, and that is Joe Kerr, who is running for Congress in the 40th Congressional District. And most of us can vote for Joe, okay? So not all of us, but most of us can vote for Joe. And we want to make sure, we definitely want to make sure to do that. That's another step to retaking the House, okay? Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, everybody. Good morning, Laguna Woods. And Dom, how about giving it up for Dom again? That was great. God bless you. Hard act to follow. Good morning, my name's Joe Kerr. I'm a retired firefighter. I used to work in your community down the road, Firehouse 22, and up the road at Fire Station 38. I was a firefighter for 34 years. My dad was a firefighter before me. My kid brother's a firefighter. And my son is studying to be a firefighter. Pray for those young men who were on that hand crew bus that overturned a couple of nights ago. We still have a couple of them in intensive care. Those are the young men and women who, when they start out, they go to the hand crew. It's laborious work, chainsaws and shovels and grubbing tools and putting in a fire line in steep terrain and so forth. And they were pretty badly hurt. So let's pray for them. Our district has been on fire. This is one of the biggest wildfire corridors on the planet in CA40. Santa Ana Mountains of 500,000 acres. Over 100,000 acres of state land, plus up to Chino Hills Park and so forth. And as you may know, one of the biggest drivers of climate change and climatic extreme is our fires. And almost 20% of the CO2 in the atmosphere right now is from fires from across the country. So that is something that we need to fix and take care of. A little bit about me, a little bit about the district, and a little bit about the race, and thank you for being here this morning. As I said, I was a retired firefighter. I was the president and first president of Orange County Firefighters. We created the Orange County Professional Firefighters during the bankruptcy of 1995, where Republican Governor Pete Wilson stole 10% of our retirement. Didn't know what else to do, so I called the White House and didn't know who to speak to, so I said the guy who lived there, and I talked to intern after intern. They got younger and younger every time I got transferred. And as silly as it sounds, 6 months later, in October of 1996, President Bill Clinton signed a bill to protect pensions for all public employees throughout the entire country and give us back our pensions. So I know how important that is. We got 200 bills signed by 5 governors and 2 presidents. Every bill was bipartisan. George W. Bush signed a bill for firefighters killed in line of duty. Arnold Schwarzenegger signed a bill that we could pre-fund retiree health care, so when our firefighters retire, they're not a burden on the taxpayer. They put their own pay into their retirement for 30 years. When they retire, they could take that retirement out and so forth. So I know how important it is for supporting Medicare, supporting Social Security. I'm signing up for Medicare as we speak right now, so it's something that we can fix. And I'll tell you how we can fix it. It's not that hard, you know. The money's easy. It's the politics that's hard. And the way we fix it is we get Harris Walls in the White House and we flip this seat and flip the entire United States Congress blue. And Democrats already have a plan in the Health, Education, and Labor and Pensions Committee. Under Democrats, will be able to make sure that Medicare and Social Security is here in the future, not just till 2035. There's simple funding mechanisms we can put in to make sure it's here for all of you. And that's a priority for me. I went to a fire chief meeting once when I was the president of the firefighters, and as I was leaving, the fire chief said, "Hey, by the way, your retirees are going to be without health care in 8 months." And I said, "My retirees? Since when did they become my retirees? Under contract, they're your retirees." I said, "Look, I'll fix the problem, but I'm taking over the retirement healthcare trust, and I'm taking over healthcare. How much you paying for healthcare?" He said, $1 million a month. I said, "I'll do it for $900,000. He said, "Impossible." And I said, "At the end of the year, I'll give you another $1 million. He said, "Impossible." We met with Democrats, Republicans, subject matter experts, firefighters, paramedics. Within a year, we had a contract. We created healthcare trust for your first responders in Orange County Fire Authority, and we gave back $2.2 million that year and every year since then, except for last year and the year before. My successors gave back $7 million of your taxpayer money and maintained the benefit for healthcare. So we could do it for first responders. We could do it for those throughout the country and in this district who work their whole lives and deserve to make sure that they have Medicare and Social Security working for them. We also work with Governor Schwarzenegger, like I said, to pre-fund retiree healthcare. These are things we're going to do when I'm in the United States Congress. I brought back 1.7 by the end of this year, $1.7 billion back to the district just as a knucklehead firefighter. If I could do it as a firefighter, imagine what we could do as a United States Congressman. The reason we brought that money back, and when I say brought it back, it's not just me. I always create coalitions of people smarter than me in the room that help out. It's because Orange County is a donor county. For every dollar you pay in taxes, we only get 6 cents back from Sacramento. San Francisco gets almost 60 cents back, 10 times more than Orange County. The average in the state is 14 cents per dollar. We get 6 cents back. So when the County of Orange lost all of their vehicle license fee money, that's whenever you register your car or other vehicle, that money goes to the state, 6 cents comes back. That's discretionary money. It's generally used for first responders, public safety, most notably the Sheriff's Department and so forth. So when they lost that money, they asked if I could get it back, and I told the Board of Supervisors, "No, do your job. I'm retired, do your job." And they said, "Well, the governor won't meet with us, and we're going to be looking at massive layoffs if you don't bring that money back." So I met with Governor Brown and the legislature and the Speaker, John Perez, and the President Pro Tem in the Senate, and after 100 days of negotiations, we were able to bring that money back. My opponent, Young Kim, has brought back $22 million to this district as a congressman. $22 million. Firefighters have brought back $1.7 billion. $1 billion to your fire authority to keep it funded and to build it from the throes of the bankruptcy, and another $700 million for the vehicle license fee. Imagine what we could do to bring back infrastructure money and first responder money and other money when we're in the United States Congress. Right now in the polls, within single digits of Young Kim, when people find out I'm a first responder, we move ahead by 11 points over Young Kim. And we've got a big bump from Harris Walls. We went from a Biden +2 district, we're now a Harris +5 district. So we can win this seat. And the registrations changed from a 3.6 Republican to a 1.8 Republican. So we're in the margins, we could take her out, we could beat Young Kim and flip this seat. Thank you, I'll give it to you for questions, sir.
Thank you. The same three questions that Dave Min had, 2-minute answer. How would you use your voice to improve lives in today's congressional environment? How can you help amid party divisions, inadequate budgets, and a constant need to compete in campaigns?
We'll start with budget. When the Great Recession hit, the County of Orange was looking at, again, massive layoffs. And Senator Pat Bates, when she was still a supervisor, she said, we're looking at massive layoffs. Joe, will you balance the budget for the fire authority? For 1,500 people, $500 million. And again, I said, it's your job. And they said, well, if the elected officials do the budget, we're gonna lay off people. So the firefighters, your first responders, took the budget, and we balanced the budget for 2008 without one person losing a job, without one penny in new taxes. They said, you did such a good job, can you do it for 09? So we took the budget again, and in 09, we balanced a $500 million budget. You didn't lose one firefighter or one paramedic from your first responders in this area. And they said, well, can you do it again for 2010? So we balanced your $500 million budget 3 times in a row in 3 years, again, without one penny in new taxes. Firefighters gave up their pay, they gave up their cost of living and so forth, just so they could make sure the fire department stayed afloat. As far as, it sounds like your question is a bipartisan issue question. The 200 bills we got signed, like I mentioned, every one of them was bipartisan, every single one. To the point where, Democrats in some cases didn't want me talking to Republicans. Republicans in some cases didn't want me to talk to Democrats. And Jerry Brown on a governance bill here in Orange County said, he told my successor, president of the firefighters, the only reason I signed this bill, not because of Joe and former Governor Gray Davis, we were working on a bill together. The only reason I signed this bill is because Senator, his name, I just lost his name, John from Costa Mesa, who was the knucklehead Senator? Morlock. I put that name out of my mind so long I had trouble getting it back. He said, the only reason I signed this bill is because Morlock was opposed to it. The next bill I put forward, Morlock said, hey, I like this bill so much, Joe, I'd really like to sign on to this bill with you. And I said, please don't sign on to this bill, Senator, because if you do, the governor won't sign it for me. He goes, that's bipartisanship in reverse, and we can get some stuff done.
School shootings have been a national problem for too long a time. How would you help break the logjam in Congress and pass sensible gun controls to help ensure the safety of our children and citizens?
If I did anything as a former first responder in this area, it'd be 1,000% more than the current incumbent in office right now, Republican Young Kim. She has opposed bipartisan universal background checks, which is violent person check. She has opposed that. It's universal and it's bipartisan. She's opposed banning bump stocks. She has opposed banning assault weapons. She has opposed every school bill that came down to protect our kids in school. She has an A+ rating with the NRA. And she showed up at Cook's Corner on the 1-year anniversary of the mass shooting to grab a microphone from grieving employees to offer hearts and prayers and saying, I am with you. If I did one thing, if I was a cardboard cutout, I could do more than Young Kim is doing as our congressman right now. So there's a lot of bills out there that are bipartisan. We can start there. We can start hardening our schools. because I've probably mentioned here before, as a former first responder and being on a lot of shootings in my career, I can tell you there are a lot of strata of victims. There's the victims who lose their lives tragically. We've had 2 school shootings, one down the road here at the Laguna Hills Church, where a hero emerged and gave his life to protect someone. The people who lose their lives are victims. The people who get injured and those injuries stay with them forever are victims. And your first responders who have that compilation of babies not breathing, school shootings, traffic collisions, cutting their firefighter friends out of their fire truck a couple days ago, and more firefighters have taken their own lives in the last 3 years that have been lost in the line of duty. So if I did anything, it'd be 1,000% more than my opponent right now, and I will definitely get something done on gun safety in this district and in this country.
Last question. What immediate steps would you propose to stop the ravages of climate change?
Well, there's a lot of different things we can do. Number one, as I mentioned, wildfire is the biggest driver of climatic extreme. One wildfire of 100,000 acres is equal in CO2 greenhouse gas emissions to 7 million cars continuously running for a year. One wildfire is equal to 7 million cars. You could give every man and woman an electric vehicle in the United States, and you're still going to have climatic extremes. Our wildfires, the soot from our smoke gets into the jet stream, it passes the New York skyline, it goes over to Greenland, it deposits black soot on Greenland instead of white snow and ice, reflecting the sun's rays. It absorbs it, it exacerbates the melting with puddles and waterfalls and fresh water into the ocean to the point where the circulators in the Atlantic Ocean are working right now, and that's why we're getting hurricanes, that's why we're getting weather whiplash, that's why we have 3 seasons now, fire, flood, and drought, and that's what we're gonna see. The smoke from our wildfires right now stay in the atmosphere for the next 100 years. The other 2 things I would do, because I was the former wildland fire defense planner in this county. I know how to do a prescription burn, I know how to do fuel reduction, I know how to protect homes. I had to approve 500,000 homes in the 80s and 90s, not one of them have burned down. The second thing I would do is carbon capture, CO2 sequestration. When you burn a forest like they did in Canada last year with 40 million acres, every year we burn 4, they burned 40 million acres of 1,000-year-old boreal forest. You lose the CO2 that's been in the ground, you lose the ability to capture CO2. So CO2 capture, CO2 sequestration, we have to get aggressive on that, and Orange County is poised better than anyone on the planet for clean tech and green tech. And the other thing I would do is the governor put me on the Water Quality Control Board, and just to the west of us is one of the biggest aquifers on the planet of 3 trillion gallons. And 2/3 of those wells are polluted with forever chemicals, PFAS and PFAS. So I have a background in fixing this stuff. And again, if I did anything, it'd be 1,000% more than my opponent. Thank you guys very much for being out here. I really appreciate it.
Okay, Joe, thank you so much. I'm sure that we all learned a lot, right? There is so much that we don't know about fires and climate change, etc. We all think we know everything, but we really don't, okay? And if you would like to not only vote for Joe, but donate to Joe, you go to joecurveforcongress.com, joecurveforcongress.com, and I'm sure those donations would be gratefully appreciated. And thank you so much for being here today.